In this video, we are going to look at how we can add an image to our website. Now our current file is getting a little large, a little disorganized, so why don't we make a new one? I'm going to do this in the tutorials folder. I'm going to right click on it. Again, I'm right clicking on tutorials, not this folder here. New folder. In my video number, I think this will be 1-3. I'm going to call it images. Click enter. And let's make a file in here. I'm going to do new file. I'm going to call it testing images because we're going to have an images folder in a second. And this is our website file, so we're going to do .html. Click enter. All right, and we have a new file. So we got our two tabs here if we want to flip back and forth. Remember that when we make a HTML file, we usually incorporate the HTML, the head, and the body. So we'll need those three things. I'm not going to look at this for now, so I'm just going to close it down and add those in here. We can do that relatively quickly. HTML, tab, click enter, head, tab. Well, we're not going to use that for now. And then the body is the last one, and this is where we're going to work. So let's go ahead and move towards making our image. I'm just going to make a comment. Again, that the shortcut for that is Control / or Command /. I'll write images, so we're aware that's what we're working with. Below it, I'm going to go to returns to keep this in line. And I'm going to just pick a picture in a second. I'll probably just do a picture of a dog. So I'm going to do a header H3. I'm going to write my dog. It's not actually going to be my dog, but I'll just give it a title of my dog. So that's going to what will show up on the website. And now let's actually make the image. So the image is done through the tag img. You'll see a bunch of different options here. We can just use the first one. And now we're going to notice a few new things. The first thing we can notice are these parts of the tag. Notice that they are inside the tag. Here we have an opening and closing kind of brackets. So they're not out here, they're inside. And what do they stand for? Well, if you're curious, you can always hover over these and they'll give you a little bit of description. It says that this is the image's URL. When we make an image, you have to tell your website where is it going to find that image. Is it in a folder? Is it on a website? Where should I look? And it's necessary, it's mandatory. You have to have a spot to look for it. Otherwise, why would we have an image? Like there's no direction, we can't see anything. So we're going to put where the image is located in here. The alt we'll talk about in a second. These things are called attributes. They are inside the tag. This is the tag's name, and these are the attributes of the tag. They basically adjust something about the tag itself, where it's found, how big it is, things like that. The second thing I want to point out is that there is no closing tag for the image HTML or image tag itself. Notice with header, we have a closer. With body, we have a closer. The majority of our elements have a closing tag, and that shows us what's inside of them. But since the image is purely just a picture, it's not like there's other things we're mixing in the picture, we just do a self-enclosing tag. That's our technical term for this, is we call it a self-enclosing tag. It doesn't have a closing tag, which is fine. That's normal. And let's move towards getting ourselves an image. So we need to actually get a picture. You could use one you already have, or you could find one off the internet, but we need it somewhere where we can locate it. I'm going to go ahead, close down this folder here. I'm going to make a folder in here. So I'm going to right click on my 1-3 folder, do new folder. I'm going to type images and click enter. So this here just makes a folder inside here. And I make a folder for images just because we might have a lot of them, and it might get this screen really cluttered if we don't have a way to identify that. So in this images folder, now I need to go and find an image. I said it was going to be a dog. Let's go find a dog. That was from my test. Let's see if we can find a picture. dog picture. Okay, you can grab any picture you want, or you can find one from your computer. I'm going to right click on this, click Save Image As. You should aim for free pictures or pictures that you own if you're going to commercialize your product. I'm not. This is just for instruction, so I'm not worried about licensing here. I'm going to write dog, click Save. Let's see. Oh, I didn't put it in the right folder, looks like. Where did I save that? Let's try again. Save image as. Yeah, it's my downloads folder. I gotta put it in this folder here. I have that in my first website project, my tutorials, 1-3, and images. So I need to save it here. All right, dog again. Click enter. Seems to have saved. Let's see. Okay. Now I have this dog.jfif file. Whatever picture you choose, you need to see it inside here. If you need to find this folder, you can always right click and click Reveal in File Explorer. Now Visual Studio is pretty smart. It's going to know how to find this. If we go to the source, and then first we have to acknowledge that we are in the 1-3.images folder. This is our current file, testing images. That file is inside this folder. So if I just start typing dog, nothing's going to show up because dog is not in this folder. It is in the images folder. So we have to access the images folder first. Images, and you'll see it pop up. If you don't see it pop up, that means your images folder probably is not in here. That means you probably had it in one of the outer folders or somewhere else. You can check by right-clicking on this, Reveal in File Explorer, and make sure the images is in here. So assuming it is, we can start typing the word images. It's going to say, oh, this is what is in the 1-3 folder. And if I click that, it's going to say, oh, there's a dog picture in there. Okay. Now if I save that, and I open up my web browser, now we got that picture of the dog there. Okay, cool. So you could add another picture if you want to, or add a few more. Let's look at a few different things we can change about this. First, I want to talk about the alt tag. The alt tag is what you're going to see if this image doesn't load. So I'm going to write a picture of a dog here. Now, one reason your picture might not load is if you can't find the file. So let's say I messed up the spelling of this. Oops, I wrote Doug instead. So I don't have a Doug file. So when I save this and I go to my web browser and I refresh, well, it doesn't know where to go. We don't have a Doug file. And so that's what you see here is this alt text, this right there. So the alt text is essentially what is going to show up if you don't have the image loaded. Also, if you use a screen reader, it will probably read out this alt text. So for people who have a hard time seeing, maybe they will use a screen reader or something and it will read this out to them. Let's look at a few more things. So I'll switch back that to dog. Another thing you might want to change is you might want to change how big your picture is. So maybe you want this bigger. We can add an attribute called, I'm going to close this down for now just by clicking the Explorer so I can have more space. And I'll write width. So to do this, you got to be a little careful. You can't have it next to the quotation. It's not going to recognize unless you have a space here. Then you'll see it. It also needs to be inside this caret. I'm not to the right of it, I'm inside it. So space after quotation, right width, you'll see it show up. Now we got to specify a number. In websites, we use what are known as pixels as a measurement, or often we use pixels as a measurement for a screen. So I'm not the best at how much pixels are, but if you imagine a laptop, pixels are probably like 1200 or somewhere between 1200 and 2000 pixels wide. So if I do 500 pixels, it's probably gonna be a pretty big picture. Let's see. Yeah, you can see the picture grew a little bit here. You can also do height, but I would caution you against doing too much here. So let's do 1000 pixels for this, just for demonstrations. If I refresh this, now I have a very tall dog and a somewhat like thinner picture here, but you can see it gets stretched. So what I'd encourage you to do is not to do both of these. If you do both, you will not preserve the original ratio. But if I do one, the width will go to 500 and the height will adjust accordingly to keep the original picture's ratio. So 500 is a fine way to do that. And there is our kind of larger picture. One more option, you'll notice here if I make the web browser bigger or smaller, the picture does not change size. We'd say it's a static picture, it's not going to be adjusted. If you want it to grow with the website, we can change this to a numerical value, 50%. This is a dynamic value. It's going to scale as the website scales. So let's check that. Now you'll notice that's going to take up 50% of the space. So as I get bigger, the picture itself will get bigger. So it's going to scale nicely there. So these are two options you have. You can do a dynamic with a percentage, or you can do pixels for static. All right, and that completes our intro here into how we might use and display an image.